Then you get to Billy Wagner, which, having seen the video of Wagner getting the call and, the happy tears and everything like that, feel bad for saying like, I don't like it's not about him, less about him and more about the closer, the one inning closer and who gets in behind him because it was one thing when you had Hoffman and 500 saves and the record and everything like that. Okay, kind of get it. Rivera didn't think he should have been unanimous. He was an odd person to be the unanimous first unanimous Hall of Famer, but the best modern day close there is, plus like an entire separate body of work in the postseason. I understood that. Wagner, 900 innings and a terrible postseason record.
Hmm.
Like he barely participated in games. And I think that's kind of where I draw the line with closers is, I saw, I think it might have been Mike Petrell selling, well, if Wagner gets in, then, Kenley Jensen has to be considered. And like, why? No, this is not what you want. You don't want Kenley Jensen and Craig Kimbrell and everybody else who like pitched one inning to get in. Like, it's a specialist position. They seldom swing games. Like they're put in a position where their team's already like 95% likely to win. Like it's kind of like if you vote a kicker into the Football Hall of Fame and all they did was kick extra points, just easy field goals. That's basically what they're doing. Like it's not like they're hitting 50 yarders. Like I would consider like the Goose Gossage type of reliever. Like their extra points from like 45 yards out every time. And they did the bulk of the scoring for their teams. Like in this case, it's like they just chipping games home and when Rivera missed the season, Rafael Soriano stepped in, no difference. When Rivera retired, they went to David Robertson, no difference. When Hoffman left the Padres, Heath Bell took over, no difference. Like, it's awesome when closers can be successful for 10, 15 years, but they're not doing much for their teams that like another good reliever wouldn't do. So that's, I think, my biggest problem is not necessarily Wagner specific. Like he was the best of this crop. Like I saw Joe Nathan when he was on the ballot for the 1 year saying like, oh, if we're considering Wagner, we got to consider Joe Nathan. And I was like, God, no. But like Wagner, his strikeout rates are special enough to where like he was cut above the rest, but he just invites a whole lot of other, they don't affect games. They barely play. Everything is set up so carefully for them. And, if you don't have postseason value or you're not the best that ever was for the longest time, in the case of Rivera, and he had both, I find it hard to be like all that moved by just by the position and getting this much consideration when starters are finding it so hard pitching like 3 or 4 times the innings that these relievers are pitching.
James, are you in Jim's boat when it comes to closers and the Hall of Fame? You're pretty close to voting for the Hall of Fame, aren't you? You're like a couple years away.
You can't make me. But technically,
We
yes.
need the traffic. We need a terrible ballot and lots of traffic.
Yeah, I mean, the whole ballot culture thing is not as much as like transparency is like a good goal, like the whole everyone yelling at each other about whether it's a good ballot or a bad ballot. I feel like diversity of opinion is kind of very nice about baseball and that it is very open to interpretation is something that's fun. So the general witch hunt nature of kind of responding to voters as much as like, yes, they shouldn't be able to be shielded by secrecy and have all this power. It's not a fun discourse to, you know, find, even if you feel like you're on the righteous side. It's a little joyless. That said, like I'm kind of big Hall. I mean, there's been a lot of weirdness with the Hall of Fame. A lot of racism probably affecting it during a lot of its run. A lot of weird questions and standards being enforced about PED users. So that leads to me being less invested in the idea that there can be this like consistent standard of what is, and more just like it's a nice experience. Players seem to really enjoy it. Being in the room to see Dick Allen's family get the news
Mhm.
in December was. It just seems like I'm in favor of remembering some guys, and it's obviously a route to do it, and then really kind of celebrate players who deserve celebration and debating about like the scale. I'd rather just see everyone kind of get appreciated. But Wagner, I think, based on Sanders, is interesting because I think he's really just there's no special element of him, playoff wise or having some record setting season or a period where 3 4 year run where he's like unquestionably the best reliever alive sort of run. He's just like your standard issue elite closer who did it for a long time, and it's kind of the bellwether of like whether this role um, is just Hall of Fame worthy when you're at the top tier. And I think one, like it's great to see Billy Wagner get the call, but also I don't think this is not like it's a lot easier to develop relievers than starters. It's the answer in pitch dev when to what to do with a starting pitching prospect. It's just it fixes so many things. Like you don't have three pitches, you can't get lefties out, you can't repeat your delivery. You can still be a good reliever with all those things. So it really does feel like a less than role. And I feel like if we're going to celebrate the great relievers, which sure, let's celebrate great relievers. They're really cool and very meaningful. But there are probably other positions that have been underrepresented, second base, third base, like the non-elite defensive positions, where there still can be a lot of skill and production. We or just catchers, given how difficult that position is offensively and how much we struggle to quantify it. There's probably a lot of guys we've probably a lot of areas where there could be more an effort to really honor like the best of that position and value it better. And I think closer is kind of a sexy role that takes a lot of media attention. You know, it's always in the center of like dramatic moments of the game, uh, which makes why these best closers like very memorable to us and a big part of the game. But it leads to us. There are other positions we could value more.
Thanks for watching the latest Sox Machine video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SoxMachine. And if you ever need something to listen to, subscribe to the Sox Machine podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music.